Which company will never see your money again? Atant. At the time, they were the only internet provider near me. Live in a rural area. I then found a new home. And since I was still under contract, I took my internet service with me. Once I'd learned that the local cable company had faster internet for the same price, I decided to jump ship. Trying to get out of a contract with them was like pulling teeth. I've had the same issue but with Adam Internet, Australia. I moved and all I wanted was to shift my service because I'd been with them long enough. I wasn't on a contract anymore, which meant I could leave anytime I wanted. I decided to go with another company that was offering unlimited for less dollars, but the duckers signed me onto a new contract without me knowing. I had a friend that worked there look into also, and looking through my history he even noticed stuff that wasn't meant to happen going on, like no verbal agreement from me and more. Still cheats me. Pizza Hut. I worked there from 2009 to 2017 as a side gig. Early last year, corporate sold most of the Houston stores to a franchisee. One company, RTL Foods, operate almost all the stores in the area now. After they took over, constant upper management duckups and payroll duckups started. It got to the point where our paychecks started bouncing. So I put them on blast on Pizza Hut's Facebook page. I asked if they could vet their franchisees a little better instead of just handing the keys to any hack frauds that say, "Hi, I heave money's Wadleek Restaurant PLZ." They tried to suspend me, so I just quit instead. Now I don't eat there on principle. Their sheet ain't that good anyway. There's an auto shop in my town that I paid $250 to balance 4 wheels and fix one bent rim. This whole process is maybe 1 hour of work. I'd know. I am a fully trained mechanic. I just don't have access to the required tools to do this work. They didn't balance all 4. I complained and went back. They balanced one more wheel that they made me guess was the issue. That wheel needed balancing. They balanced that wheel and sent me on my way. That wheel wasn't the only one not balanced. I still have at least one unbalanced wheel. 2 trips to balance 4 wheels and they couldn't do it. So basically I paid them $200 plus and spent 3 hours waiting across 2 trips for them to not do the 1 hour of work I paid them for. They are incompetent, stupid, lazy, and they ripped me off. Wheels in Annapolis MD is a dishonest shop and deserves to fail. Jiffy Lube. Took my car there for an oil change before a long haul trip across the country. Had an appointment with the dealership immediately afterwards because a part on warranty needed replacing. I am not entirely sure what happened in between. But after my oil change from Jiffy Lube, I drove down the street to the dealership and pulled up to the service garage. A representative immediately comes out, yelling at me and waving his hands. "What were you thinking driving that thing up like that? Why didn't you call us to get a tow?" Confused, I step out of my car and approach him. He points behind me. Beneath the car, there is a puddle of blue, black, and yellow fluids leaking all over their nicely paved service entrance, with a trail leading down the street, right back to Jiffy Lube. Buffalo Wild Wings. Last August I did the Blazin' Challenge, 12 of their hottest wings in 6 minutes, after making sure they had the t-shirt prize in my size. The server assured me they did. Held the challenge and then they tell me they don't have the shirt. After getting a few canned responses from social media customer service and another promise from the manager that she has found the shirt at another local store and will be mailing it to me, they straight up stopped replying and refused to take my calls. Now keep in mind, I signed a waiver saying they aren't responsible for injury and blah blah. But it also said that if I win I am entitled to the shirt in the Wall of Fame. Also they still make you pay for the challenge wings. You ducked me, Buffalo Wild Wings. And you even made me pay for dinner first. My local liquor store after the employee remarked back again as I entered. I'm guessing they said it in a rude tone. Our liquor store clerk does that too, but in a joking banter way. Like my BF comes back and the clerk goes, "Forgot beer for your GFA?" I live in a college town. The local liquor store always goes, "See you tomorrow" as you walk out the door. It's more endearing than offensive. Comcast. For years I have refused to move to places where they are the only cable internet option. And if they ever replace my current provider, I will either sell my house or live without internet. I had an account with them for about a year from 2009 to 2010. And that was enough bullshit for the rest of my life. I had my own modem. But every month they charged a modem rental fee. And every month I called to resolve the billing discrepancy. Their customer service was atrocious and every month the same issue would return. When I moved and went to cancel my service, they demanded that I return the modem that was never theirs in the first place. Then at the end of 2011, I moved with roommates back to a Comcast-only city. And since they wanted internet, I reluctantly agreed to pay part of the bill. Somehow when the problems started, I was the one who had to fight with customer service. Never again. My university. They are assholes that charge you as much as is possible for bullshit reasons. For example, they deactivated my parking permit 3 days before I was supposed to move out, which resulted in 2 tickets and owing them another $70. My appeal was denied. So I pay that or don't get my diploma. Assholes. Edit. I know that several people have asked for the name, but I don't see how that will help me or anyone. As much as I hate the school, I don't want to devalue my degree. Don't worry. In a few years they'll get your number off an alumni list and call you asking for a donation. You'll be able to tell them to duck off them. Best Buy. I worked for them for a while years ago. Hate them or love them. Back then they seemed to care. Employees got decent bonuses. Metrics were not the be all end all. Geek Squad was still new and you actually had to have some computer knowledge to be one. Then corporate got greedy. Decided to compete against Walmart. Only cared about metrics and how many Best Buy credit cards you got. They screwed the customer. But they also seriously screwed their employees. Haven't seen a penny of my money since I quit. I stopped going to them way back in the 90s. I got a $100 gift card to Best Buy for Christmas. I was pumped. So on the day after Christmas, I got a lot of stuff. Maybe $95 worth of stuff. But they wouldn't take my card. I had to spend 10% more than the card was worth to redeem it. What asshole in corporate thought that was a good idea? Soured me to Best Buy from then on. Facebook. Ducking disabled my ads account, which was understandable. But also aren't returning the amount of money which I have added to my ad balance. Why did they cancel your ads account? I'm totally with you, they should refund the balance. I'm just interested to know what kind of behavior gets your ads account banned. I had a drunken thought one night and wondered if I could start a company that sells vegetables where the mascot is an eggplant that suspiciously looks like a Pen 15. InBev. They are the Nestle of the beer world. They actively seek legislation that hurts small breweries. They patent hops so other brewers, even home brewers, can't use them. They use corn syrup as a substitute for barley to save money in many beers such as Bud Light. I could go on and on about how terrible InBev is. But the worst of it is that no one tried to stop their acquisition of Anheuser-Busch. Despite them being a foreign-owned multinational. All the Republicans that claim to be pro-America looked the other way for bribe money. All the Democrats that pretend to love workers' rights looked the other way. They let it happen. I didn't even like Anheuser-Busch as a company. But they were our shitty beer company. Now they're but a zombie. Controlled by someone else in a faraway land. I signed up to a kickboxing class which was £50 for 6 lessons. Their intention was to get people to pay for a membership. After those classes finished I rang them to sign up as I really enjoyed it. I was told someone would get back to me, they never did. I emailed them. Never got a reply. I went in and left my details with a guy who said the manager would give me a call. He didn't. I rang again and was told someone would get back to me. You guessed it, they did not. They won't see my money because they clearly don't want it. Had an issue with Blur Apron where they mispackaged some potatoes and then blamed me for not knowing to refrigerate them. When I contacted CS, who the hell refrigerates potatoes, Next week went by and I got more stupidly packed potatoes and noticed the plastic bag it came in didn't say to refrigerate. All there must be refrigerated packages have a label saying so. Took like 3 weeks to settle an issue with rotting potatoes seeping and leaking all over. Other food items settled. Duck that. A year of loyal weekly service down the drain and now HelloFresh has my business. Nestle. I can't even put into words how much I love the shit they do. Especially in third world countries. They hold a crazy monopoly in places like Africa where water is scarce. They have enough water, but it's so expensive few people can get to it. They are also the reason Flint here in the US doesn't have water. Absolutely evil. Edit, ducked up a bit on the Flint part. They didn't cause the water crisis there, but they were complicit for a long time for not helping Flint. Even though they had multiple plants in Michigan. They stepped up and are giving Flint a few months supply of free water bottles. My nephew worked in Africa for years. Long story short, in the village where he was working Nestle came in and offered to buy water from their wells. The village declined. So Nestle went to this very tiny little village that is just outside the village where my nephew was located. Bought their water rights. Then sucked so much water out of the tiny village as well that they completely dried up all the wells in my nephew's village. Now Nestle sells my nephew's village bottled water since they can no longer get the water from their own wells. AAA. I was in an accident a couple of years ago and instead of paying out, like what you'd expect an insurance company to do, they cancelled my policy. My dad and I share the same name, so they claimed that my dad was insuring my car and used that as an excuse to claim fraud and cancel my policy. That sucks. Because AAA is one of the few companies that I swear by. I've had them as my insurer for 20 years and they've been nothing but great. Kids accidents. Fender benders. Loaner cars. Travel discounts. The whole lot. Sears. They sold me an expensive vacuum cleaner that lasted less than 1 year with normal use. It wouldn't suck the cat hair from the furniture. Moreover, they wouldn't replace or exchange the defective unit I bought. And the fact that they massively ducked over their employees when they filed for bankruptcy. My dad worked for them for 30 years as a commission salesman. He was supposed to retire with a nice pension and a good severance. Long story short, he is now out $140,000 from a pension he paid into and no severance. Dr. Martens. There was a time when a pair of docks would last 2 years. But then they moved production to China and the quality just took a nosedive. They would start cracking and tearing after just a few months. Spirit Airlines. Anyone who's flown with them will understand why. They're not bad if you can pack light and snag a big front seat. I could have spent $350 on another airline or $150 with Spirit. They're terrible, but I've done worse things for $200. eBay, PayPal. Thieving scumbags. Out of pure curiosity. What's wrong with them? Haven't had any issues with them but would like to hear some experiences. I was selling a rather expensive laptop, $2,500. However, the buyer never paid. Yet eBay decided to charge me nearly £200 for the invoice despite the fact it was never sold. I took the case to PayPal but they kissed up to eBay as well. EA. After the loot box controversy, it was almost believable that they would learn their lesson. But after the announcement yesterday that they're essentially gonna just circumvent legislation and regulation rather than being pro-consumer, yeah, they can duck off. A stupid minor one. But the nearest Taco Bell. It's maybe a year or so old and the first 3-6 months was great, quick, accurate, etc. Then something changed. I'm guessing corporate trainers left or something, and everything went to shit almost immediately. Speed sucks. Order accuracy sucks. I've even paid for things and not received them several times. I gave it a couple of months and tried one more time and it was still terrible. I don't know if a good manager left and a shit manager came in or what. I don't have high expectations for fast food, but Jesus. Their Yelp reviews are even all terrible now, even by the standard of other fast food joints. this random little restaurant across the street from my office. I walked in one day to get a late lunch, as I had many times. And apparently they just changed their policy that they stopped serving food from 2 PM to 4 PM. There were no signs anywhere. The person behind the bar, who was also the owner, barked at me. We don't serve food right now, so what do you want? He had a rich ass attitude, so he can keep going without any of my money or business. As whole. Bank of America. I've literally never opened an account with them. But I've closed 4 or 5. Razor. Every single product I have ever purchased from them broke on its own. 2 mice started to get this thing where I'd be using it. Then let go of the mouse to type. And the cursor would slowly creep towards the bottom left corner of the screen. I also had a keyboard that started double clicking characters when I'd only click them once. Telstra. Not directly anyway. I even didn't get the landline connected. People just view Telstra as expensive these days, but they used to be dodgy as hell in the early 2000s and late 90s with massive issues of overcharging every Tom, Big Dig and Harry some 4 years and they didn't even know. I myself got a $2,000 phone bill that I had to fight tooth and nail not to pay, and they were real jerks about it. This was well before any of the caps they have these days. It still annoys me thinking about it now. Time Warner Cable. Now that Google Fiber is available at my house, having Google Fiber has been the most pleasant experience ever. No letters in the mail asking me to upgrade to phone TV. No throttling. No bullshit. And actually smart technicians that have solid answers when I call them on the phone. Duck TWC. HP. Bought a laptop from them a few years ago. Arrived without Wi-Fi capability. Tried to fix the problem myself by updating drivers. etc. When that didn't work, I asked customer service about it. They said it couldn't be their fault, so if I wanted it repaired I'd have to pay them full price to do so. Duck that sheet. I could still use an Ethernet cable, so I did that. A few months later the casing broke at the hinge. Like the hinge had absolutely shredded itself. Pulling bottom and top casings half an inch apart. A year after that even the Ethernet cable wouldn't allow it to get online. And didn't work unless the laptop had like a 1 centimeter gap between the screen and keyboard. Literally all of this would have been avoided if they just would have owned up to the fact that maybe something got ducked up on their end and checked it out. But instead I refused to buy any of their stuff again. FedEx. They offended me when one of their drivers caused me to get into an accident and to thank me fled the scene. Reported to FedEx they did not give a duck since he didn't actually crash into me. I used to work in the wine industry and really love wine. My favorite varietal for years has been Zinfandel, red, not white, and I found one called Nana's Shortcake that I adore so much that I've literally brought it to multiple friends' houses just to spread the love. Found out today the brand is shutting down and all wines are being pulled because the juggernaut wine brand Layer Cake is suing them. Why? Because they have the name cake in their name and Nana's is a small enough label they can't afford to fight it. So duck Layer Cake. I'm never giving them my money. Business tactics like that are sickening. Panera. You know how sandwiches always taste better when someone else makes them? Panera never got the memo. I'll pay for overpriced food, but I know I can make a better sandwich than that. Chase. Someone cashed a check as cash. They said I never reported the checks stolen, so I was responsible. And even after that they never gave me info on who or where it was cashed. Duck Chase. JCPenney. Worked there for a year in high school. And everything about it was a mess. Granted, most of the issues were specific to my store. But it still turned me off the company. First off, they'd intentionally schedule employees for 38 hours a week. Because they had to transition you to full-time at 40. We'd often work more than 40 hours including closing. But it didn't count because we were scheduled for 38. I was also denied time off to go to my own high school graduation.